The Michigan Man Podcast, episode 238. Coach John Beilein's young and injury-riddled team faces a make-it-or-break-it stretch in the next 7 days. And believe it or not, spring football practice gets underway on Tuesday. That and more on this week's show. Welcome to the Michigan Man Podcast, brought to you in partnership with Maize & Brew, your best source for quality Michigan Wolverine news, rumors, analysis, stats, and scores from the fan perspective, for Wolverine fans from coast to coast. Go Blue, and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Michigan State and Ohio State at home, then down to Maryland. That's the schedule Coach B and his struggling young team face in the next 7-day stretch. If you're an optimist, winning 2 out of the next 3 puts you back into postseason tournament consideration, more than likely the NIT. Winning the Big Ten tournament appears to be the only chance we have of making it back to the big dance. It seems unlikely, but as Terry Mills told me on today's Michigan Gameday segment, Michigan just has to take it one game at a time and find a way to win some of these very close games. Easier said than done with this depleted roster, but you never know. It's why they play the games. Terry thinks this team can still surprise us. He will join us in just a few minutes with his thoughts on Michigan hoops, present and future. Before we get to Terry, a few Wolverine news and notes to get us started this week. I know it's only February, but Michigan football begins spring practice on Tuesday. To say fans are excited is probably a gross understatement. Since the minute Jim Harbaugh was hired, the expectation meter has been in the red. We'll still be undefeated after the spring game, and what we'll learn as fans over the next 5 or 6 weeks will probably be minimal. It's another important spring for Michigan football, though, and the first chance Coach Harbaugh will have to see his players compete. We might not learn much during spring practice, but Coach Harbaugh should come out of the 18 practices with a pretty good feel for what he has to work with this fall. Next week, we'll have our first spring practice preview. Our scheduled guest is Wolverine.com editor Chris Balas. Derek Walton Jr. was out again for Michigan State on Tuesday, and there is no timeline for his return to the lineup. Derek had his boot off at Illinois last week during the pregame shoot-around, and was putting up jumpers standing still. Looked pretty good. Coach B said on Monday, though, he still expects Derek will be back this season, but it will not be until he can run pain-free. Tuesday's MSU game marked the 6th consecutive contest without Walton. Freshman Austin Hatch will receive the 2015 U.S. Basketball Writers Association's Most Courageous Award. Austin will be honored at the April 6th luncheon during this year's Final Four in Indianapolis. The presentation will be held just 2 hours from his hometown of Fort Wayne. Michigan great and now Wolverine radio color analyst Terry Mills told me even though this season hasn't gone according to script for Coach B and the guys, we are still seeing growth each night out, and that will pay dividends next year. Terry joins me next on our Michigan Game Day segment, here on the Michigan Man Podcast in partnership with SB Nation's Maize & Brew. Back with us on our Michigan Game Day segment this week is Wolverine great and current radio color analyst on the Michigan Basketball Network, Terry Mills. Great to have you back, Terry.
Well, thanks for having me, Mike.
We begin a really tough stretch coming up this week, Terry, of course, with the Spartans on Tuesday night in Ohio State, and then down to Maryland. 3 overtime losses for this young team in the last 6 games. That really has to eat away at this young team's confidence, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. I mean, it's a team that, definitely hasn't given up. They continue to fight, but, you're just wondering, when are they going to get one of these? I think it would just do wonders for them to be able to get one of these in overtime or get a close game coming down the stretch. And right now, they just haven't been able to do that.
Well, in these three overtime losses and a couple of the other losses, Terry, have been gut-wrenchingly close games too. But in the OT, is this team just running out of gas, or does it just have more to do with the fact that we just don't have, that go-to guy right now that can maybe carry this team on its back, especially in those early first few minutes of overtime?
Well, I mean, it's kind of a two-way situation, and just like you said, the first couple of minutes in overtime is very important. And I just feel like, if this team could get off to a start or get a field goal and a free throw or something like that, it would just do them justice. It just seems like when they go to overtime, at least in the last two, with Michigan State and then the last one, and Illinois, it's just like they just pretty much just ran out of gas. And when you're going to try to win games like that and close games like that, you've got to continue to take care of the ball. You've got to go back to the fundamentals. And when you start turning the ball over in overtime situations and coming down the stretch, you definitely can't close games out.
But don't you think, Terry, when you get to, they've expended so much energy to either hang on or get into overtime that when you get into that 5 minutes and you look at that unit that's out on the floor right now, God bless them, they're young and they're busting their butts, but there really just isn't that one player you can look to and say, okay, take over.
Yeah, well, you definitely don't have that, and they've all had to do it as a collective unit, to even try to get to overtime and try to win games. I don't think Michigan has that one standout player or that one go-to guy that they can look to and say, hey, give us a bucket right now. And I think they had that, when Karis LeVert was healthy. He was kind of a guy that if you needed a bucket down the stretch or needed him to create a bucket, he was the guy to definitely do it. And Michigan just doesn't have that right now. I'm not saying that those guys won't have it in the future. It's just the fact that they don't have it right now.
Well, the de facto leader right now in overtime is, or at any point in the game, is Spike Albrecht. He's played a ton of minutes. He's carrying a heavy load right now. Does it look to you, Terry, like he's maybe starting to wear down a bit?
I wouldn't say that. I just think that Spike, from my standpoint, he's very, very productive in short minutes. And I don't mean like, 27, 28 minutes or even 30 minutes. I think what Spike gives you in between the 15 and 20 minutes is probably what he's going to give you in 30 minutes. So he does things in short bursts and in limited time. And right now his role is changing, and you're almost playing him starter minutes, longer minutes, and hey, it could take its toll.
Well, Terry, we're getting down to the home stretch here in the next couple of weeks. Anything you've heard on how Derek Walton Jr.'s foot is progressing?
No, I haven't heard anything. Everything was pretty much just kind of a day-to-day situation, and with him having turf toe, it's kind of a, how he feels type of situation. I know at the last practice before Illinois, he had just taken the boot off, the air boot, and he was just, standing still shooting some jump shots. So I don't know what his timetable is, and I don't think that they're rushing him. They're more or less looking for the long haul as opposed to, trying to get him out there and get him playing. Now it's all about his health.
Well, I think, Terry, we all know the NCAA tournament hopes have all but disappeared unless we win the Big Ten tournament, and anything's possible. But do you still think right now, heading down the stretch, there is a chance for an NIT invite?
I think there's a chance, and you don't want to lose hope and say that you're not going to get invited to the NCAA tournament. I mean, you pretty much control your own destiny. I know they have some tough losses, but if you can find some way and take it game by game to get Michigan State, Ohio State, and Maryland coming down the stretch, I mean, it shows that you're peaking and you're playing well coming down the stretch. There is a chance. So I don't think that this team is focusing on, playing in the NIT or anything like that. They're taking it game by game and let the chips fall where it may.
Well, and you talk about this next 3-game stretch. It can be a springboard or a backbreaker. The Spartans and Ohio State here at Chrysler Center, and then a trip to Maryland. The Terrapins are 15-1 at home this year. even for a healthy team playing well, that is a tough stretch of 3 games, Terry.
Yes, it is. It's very tough. But like I said, if you want to make an impression on the NCAA, I think this is the time to do it right now. I'm not trying to say that Michigan is not, hey, they're built to run for a championship. But, I mean, going to the tournament would probably do these guys justice if they could find a way to get in there, because everything has been a learning experience for this team. I mean, you've got young guys who weren't expected to play a whole lot of minutes, probably, sit there, play sparingly, learn a lot about the game and about the system. Then now all of a sudden you just throwing them in the fire and they have to learn on the fly. So it's kind of frustrating, but you have to realize that, hey, these guys are young, they're playing hard, they're catching on to the system. But I mean, the situations that they're put in as freshmen, to just have to learn on the fly is very tough.
And I think, Terry, as frustrating as it is for fans to watch it this year, watch Michigan play, we do know that is true. There's a lot of these young guys gaining a lot of invaluable experience, and it should pay dividends next year. That is the good thing.
Yeah, it should. And I think overall, just the frustration, if I'm looking at it from my angle, is just the consistency that these young men have had. I mean, I don't think you can, actually look at it and say, if you look at it overall and you say, well, you've seen flashes where Dawkins played well, you've seen flashes where Ricky Doyle played well, you've seen flashes where Muhammad played well. So if you go around and you say that, hey, if you can get all of these guys to play well at the same time, we can win some ball games. You just see flashes here and there, and then all of a sudden you see a guy not play so well the next game. And, so I think it's frustrating because of the consistency overall.
Well, with us on our Michigan Gameday segment this week is Wolverine great and current radio color analyst on the Michigan Basketball Network, Terry Mills. Terry, if you're Coach Beilein, you've just gone through a stretch of games that we've just talked about, 3 overtime losses, some other gut-wrenching losses. What do you think he tells this young group of players after these tough games?
Well, I mean, he remains positive, because that's all you can do. Because when you have a young team like that and they continue to lose, and then if you show that, you're about to break, then that's kind of the reaction of your team. Your team will feel like, hey, well, coach is breaking down, we're going to break down too. So I think it's very important to stay positive, stay upbeat, and just keep trying to encourage this team that, hey, you guys are going to win one of these games. You're going to get one of these games, and, you're going to figure it out, and you're going to find out how to win games down the stretch. So I think that it'll definitely do this team justice to be able to not only fight the way they have, but to actually win one of those games.
Well, as you mentioned a couple of minutes ago, you can't give up on the NCAA tournament or the NIT. You have to stay positive. But in some ways, the rest of the season is a building block for next year. Do you like the upside from guys like Aubrey Dawkins, Ricky Doyle, Muhammad Ali, Abdur-Rahman, and Cam Chapman from what you're seeing from them right now?
Yes, I am. And I'm seeing progress every single day, whether I'm at practice or in games. And I think that I can say, yes, they have grown.
Terry, if we're looking ahead, Karis LeVert is going to have to make a decision in the spring about whether he comes back. Do you think it would benefit him more to stay for his senior season, or is it just maybe when he considers everything a good time for him to go?
Well, that's a personal decision. So I just think he just has to just stay focused on getting healthy right now, and not whether, hey, should I go to the NBA or not? I think his health is the most important right now.
Well, Terry, do you think NBA scouts still see Karis as a first-round pick if he decides to come out?
Well, I think that's tough. I mean, you've got a lot of, projections and, guys saying that, oh, this guy should go here and he should go there. I think it's just tough. I think that you have to evaluate yourself. And like I said, he has the coaching staff around him that have the ability to, reach out to these professional, venues and say, well, what do you think about Karis or whatever else have you, and then kind of relay that information to him. But I just think that it would be a little difficult for, I don't know how long he's continued to be out with non-weight bearing, but just say if it is May, and then for him to try to get in condition and get his foot back healthy and get it strong, and then all of a sudden here it is, you're coming around to June, getting ready for the draft. I just think it's just too much pressure, and just you rushing yourself trying to get ready for that stage.
Well, Terry, we haven't heard much on the recruiting front lately, but when you look at this season, do you think the drop-off from the last 2 years hurts Michigan recruiting, or does it maybe give some of the top-level talent the idea that, hey, there's plenty of opportunity to play early here?
Well, I think it's opportunity because, if you look at this Michigan and what this staff has done with players that, people pretty much haven't even gave a chance to. If you look at Nick Stauskas and players like that, of how they came in and how much this staff has developed them, I think that's one of the recruiting tools. You look at Aubrey Dawkins, who probably wasn't recruited by a whole lot of people. You look at Muhammad, Ricky Doyle, and all of a sudden these guys coming in and are performing at a high level. So if you're a player, a younger player coming out, I think that's one of the tools you're looking at and say, well, look, hey, Michigan is bringing in players that I've never heard of, and they're competing at a high level. So I think that does it justice, and next year, bringing in DJ Wilson, he'll be one of the main factors coming in next year. So they don't have any solid, recruits, but they've got, red shirt guys that they're going to bring in next year. And I think with the experience that they've had this year, I think they should be okay next year.
Well, Terry, a final question for you. I like to ask these two questions each week to you guys and the beat writers when you come on. What do you like most about this team right now? And two, what still concerns you the most?
Well, what I like most about this team is that they're coming out and they're competing. They're not making any excuses. They're sitting there in film session. They're learning. They're paying attention. And I'm watching this team grow, and I'm watching them mature. That's what I like about them most. I think the least would probably be their rebounding. I think that they have to make more of I'm sure they're making an effort, but just staying focused on, boxing out and getting people off the boards, because that is one of the areas where I feel they totally get dominated, from game to game, is on that offensive rebounding, being able to block out and keep guys off. But that's just a mental state, and these guys will get stronger, and they'll be able to handle that in the long run.
Well, Terry, just playing off that answer as far as rebounding, that concerns me. If I had to pick an area that worries me the most, it's that rebounding. And is it just a matter of boxing out better, or when you have a lineup with really one big out there most of the time, that really makes it tough even if you are boxing out, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, it makes it tough, but you just have a conscious effort, and sometimes as players we get caught up in wanting to use your athletic ability and saying, hey, I'm going to out-jump this guy instead of putting a body on this guy. So I think that the stronger they get, the more, conscious they start to get as far as scouting reports when you play against a team and say like Michigan State, and that's how they survive, is that they go to the offensive boards, and you got to feel like as a player, you've got to take something away. So I think once they start focusing in on that and say, hey, if we don't allow them to get second shot, we'll have an excellent opportunity to win this ballgame.
Well, our guest on the show here today on Michigan Game Day has been Michigan great and current radio color analyst on the Michigan Basketball Network, Terry Mills. Terry, always a pleasure. We've got a big, important stretch coming up. By the next time we have you on, we'll have a real good idea of how the season's going to end up.
Well, I appreciate it, Mike, and I'm looking forward to this stretch here, and I think that this team is going to really kind of surprise some people. I think that, with this Michigan State game coming up, it's one of those games where, it's about toughness. It's not about preparation. It's about toughness and going out and getting this win. But I think this team is going to surprise some people coming down the stretch.
Thanks again to Michigan color analyst T-Money Terry Mills for joining us on this week's Michigan Game Day segment. It was another very busy week on the Michigan athletic scene, and we'll take a look at that next on Wolverine Quick Hits as we wrap it up for another week here on the Michigan Man Podcast in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew. On Wolverine Quick Hits today, despite double-digit scoring efforts from sophomore Sierra Thompson, 15 points, senior Shannon Smith, 14 points, and freshman Caitlin Flaherty, 10 points, the University of Michigan women's basketball team could not hold off Northwestern, falling 63-62 on Saturday at Chrysler Center. Northwestern took its only lead of the game with 4.4 seconds remaining en route to a 1-point win. Smith registered her second double-double of the season, finishing with 14 points, 10 assists to go along with 4 boards and 2 steals. Thompson added 3 boards, an assist, and a steal to her 15 points, while senior Saisha Gori missed a double-double with 9 points and 11 rebounds. Michigan shot 37.3%, 22 for 59 from the floor, compared to 48.1%, 25 for 52 for the Wildcats. Michigan out-rebounded Northwestern 38-32. The Wolverines stay at home for the next contest, hosting Indiana on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Michigan 14-11 overall, 6-8 in the Big Ten, heading into this week's play. Junior goaltender Steve Racine made 31 saves in net, but the University of Michigan hockey team, ranked number 12 in the USA Today poll, fell 2-0 at Minnesota Saturday night in front of 10,216 fans at Mariucci Arena. The Wolverines finished the regular season series 2-2 against the Gophers, with each team earning 2 wins at their home rink. Trailing 1-0 heading into the third period, Michigan outshot Minnesota 11-8 in the final frame, but Minnesota goaltender Adam Wilcox turned away several quality scoring chances for the Wolverines. The Wolverines will finish an 8-game stretch away from Yost Ice Arena with a 7 p.m. contest at Ohio State on Friday. Michigan 16-10 overall, 8-4 in the Big Ten. The number 8 ranked University of Michigan softball team wrapped up its appearance in the Unconquered Invitational in similarly dominant fashion as it began, earning a 10-2 5-inning decision against Georgia Tech on Sunday at Joanne Graff Field. It was the U of M's third run rule decision over the weekend and second against the Yellow Jackets. Junior shortstop Sierra Romero paced the Wolverines from the plate, going 2 for 3 with an RBI and 2 runs scored. Sophomore second baseman Abby Ramirez also tallied 2 hits, going 2 for 2 with an RBI. 8 different Wolverines recorded an RBI, including freshman first baseman Tara Blanco, who earned 2 on a pair of bases-loaded walks. U of M accepted 11 walks in the contest. The Wolverines will head to Tuscaloosa, Alabama for the annual Easton Bama Bash this weekend. Opening play against Lipscomb at 1:30 p.m. Central Time, and host Alabama at 4 p.m. on Friday at Rhodes Stadium. Number 8 Michigan off to a great start in the first 2 weekends of play, with an 8-1 record heading into this week's action. In baseball news, junior Jacob Cronenworth hit an opposite field 2-run single in the top of the 10th, lifting the University of Michigan baseball team to a 5-3 extra inning victory over Long Beach State on Sunday afternoon at Blair Field for U of M's first win of the season. Fifth-year senior Kendall Patrick walked to lead off the 10th. Sophomore Johnny Slater traded places with Patrick after a fielder's choice. Freshman Jake Bivens was hit by his second pitch of the game, as Michigan had runners on first and second. Senior Eric Jacobson moved both runners up a base after a groundout, which led to Cronenworth's heroics. Freshman Drew Lugbauer and Jacobson had 2 hits apiece to lead the Wolverine offense. Jacobson also joined Cronenworth with 2 ribbies. Senior Donnie Eaton earned the win on the mound, pitching the final 1.1 innings of relief. Freshman Ryan Nudoff allowed just 1 earned run in 5.2 innings pitched, while striking out 4 in his first start in a Michigan uniform. Michigan travels to Greenville, North Carolina this weekend for the Keith LeClaire Classic. The Wolverines open the tournament on Friday against Liberty. First pitch is scheduled for noon. The number 16 ranked University of Michigan wrestling team could not capitalize in several close matches, falling to number 1 Iowa 22-9 in its final Big Ten Conference duel on Friday evening at Carver Hawkeye Arena. The Wolverines earned 3 individual wins, defeating higher-ranked opponents in 2, while all but one of their losses came by 6 points or less. Sophomores Brian Murphy, Dominic Abinader, and Adam Kuhn all earned decision wins for Michigan at 157, 184, and heavyweight respectively. The Wolverines will close out the dual meet portion of their 2014-15 schedule this weekend, hosting Pitt this Friday and Duke on Saturday. Both duels are slated for 7 p.m. starts at Cliff Keen Arena. Michigan 6-6 overall, 4-5 in the Big Ten, heading into this week's action. February and March are busy and exciting times if you're a Michigan fan. Basketball, hockey, swimming, and wrestling are winding down their respective seasons, while baseball and softball are spending their weekends down south getting into the swing of things. And, of course, there is spring football starting on Tuesday. It's a lot to keep up with, but here at Maize n Brew, it's what we do. So make sure your daily reading includes a visit to www.maizenbrew.com. Make sure you're in the Wolverine loop this winter and spring. Visit www.maizenbrew.com for the best coverage of your Wolverines. If you listen to the show on your laptop or desktop, get free weekly delivery by visiting the iTunes Store. If you're an Apple device user, our show app is also available there. For Android users, you will find the show app by visiting Amazon.com and getting the podcast box. You can just do a search for the show and download it and listen from there. For Windows users, our show app can be found in the Windows 8 App Store. You can also hear us now on two great apps, TuneIn Radio and Stitcher Radio on Demand. If you get the show from iTunes, please take a minute to give us a short review or rating. It will be appreciated. Thank you in advance. Next week, spring football gets underway. It seems like the season just ended a couple of weeks ago, but with the dismissal of Brady Hoke and the hiring of Jim Harbaugh, it's been nonstop football talk since November. So next week, we hope to have Wolverine.com editor Chris Balas join us with an early look at Coach Harbaugh's first spring as head coach. We'll also check on basketball and see if we're in better shape next week. We hope to have Michigan radio voice Matt Shepard on with us too. So I hope you'll be back and join us for that. That will do it for another week. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Don't forget to tell your Michigan family and friends about the show. Have a great Wolverine week, everyone. Until next time, take care, and as always, go blue. Thanks for listening to the Michigan Man Podcast. You can find us on the web at www.themichiganmanpodcast.com or www.maizenbrew.com. Our listener line is open 24/7 for your calls at 313-263-4842. That's 313-263-4842. Or you can email your thoughts and opinions to the Michigan Man Podcast at yahoo.com. The Michigan Man Podcast is brought to you in partnership with Maize n Brew, your best source for quality Michigan Wolverine news, analysis, stats, and scores from the fan perspective. Visit www.maizenbrew.com for the best coverage of your Wolverines. The Michigan Man Podcast is produced at the studios of Robin Lynn Productions, Allen Park, Michigan, and is not affiliated with the University of Michigan. Go Blue!